Starting an Airbnb business might have crossed your mind a couple of times, but how do you even get started? And if you're going to invest in real estate, how do you invest with the expectation that you're going to start an Airbnb business? I'm going to break it down to some essential steps for you. As long as the laws are still cooperative with us as investors to be able to do this, I want to help you with not only the steps, but some of the financial planning that you need to be aware of, daily operations that you need to be able to follow, and help you navigate your new Airbnb entrepreneurship. So, first and foremost, understand the difference between Airbnb and traditional investment property. They're going to serve very different markets. They have unique expectations in both, and they have very different management styles. Owning an Airbnb typically means a short-term rental. You're offering fully furnished accommodations for vacationers or part-time travelers. These often yield a higher monthly rental income than a traditional rental, but this comes also with a greater host involvement, frequent cleaning, frequent maintenance, and guest communications. You are a hotel owner and operator at this point in the Airbnb world. On the other hand, traditional investment properties, also known as long-term residential rental, usually provides a very steady monthly income, longer tenant leases, and the expectation of just general management, flexibility, and just dealing with tenant turnover when leases are expiring. I do have a very simple table comparing the two types of investments. If you're interested in that, just hit me in our links, and always like and subscribe so that we can keep these channels going and keep all of my investors and my real estate agents and our potential clients for buying and selling and investing in real estate as an intellectual library for all of you. When you're starting Airbnb, you need to be able to consider several critical factors. You need to assess the market demand first and foremost. The competition in the desired area is going to ensure that you have a profitable venture on your hands. Understand the commitment that's involved as well. You need time, you need resources, you need daily operation capability. You need to be able to communicate with your guests, and more often, you need to be able to do instant property maintenance. Consider the financial implications of that, such as your initial investment, ongoing costs, potential for fluctuating income based on the seasonality of your market. In Florida, it's all going to be about location, 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 and what you can be in proximity of, which we'll talk about here soon. Also, reflect on your personal goals and what your expectation is for your property, your own lifestyle. Owning an Airbnb, it's going to require quite a bit of hands-on approach, and it's going to be significantly different than the traditional investment properties that we talk about and expose the goods and the bads here on the show. But great form of passive income. Next, you're going to need to learn that there is a very specific legal framework and a compliancy for you to be able to operate as an Airbnb. Very diverse, often regulation inhibited government short-term rentals. Investors need to understand that the legal landscape before setting up an Airbnb is subject to local laws. It's subject to short-term rental regulations, tourism taxes, and sometimes even stricter zoning laws. The reason for this is because of several concerns. And these concerns are usually brought up, and Dan and I were talking before the show, by the homeowners in the area that live predominantly as their primary residence. So first off, community impact. A short-term rental can significantly affect the local community. Issues just arise: noise, safety, housing, availability. This is particularly evident in areas where rental properties are converted into short terms. I mean, let's understand reducing long-term rental supplies. Regulations are often designed to mitigate that type of impact, meaning makes it kind of difficult to own an Airbnb with these excessive regulations on top of you. Tourism control is another one. A lot of cities rely on tourism, and they've got to balance it with a local quality of life. So regulations are going to aim to control the number of tourists in certain areas, and they're going to maintain the character of certain communities and neighborhoods. This ensures that their tourism growth is sustainable and beneficial to the local economy. Ultimately, the city is going to want to drive business towards the high traffic areas, the hotels, the motels, the no-tels, and make sure that that's where the people are staying so that they can kind of police and maintain it easier as well. Fair competition. Traditionally, lodging businesses like hotels, they're subject to regulations and taxes. Airbnb operates in this same market, so local laws are going to aim to level that playing field. They're going to ensure that the short-term rental meets similar standard and tax obligations by any county or taxable district. Then, of course, you've got safety and standards. Regulations are going to enforce all standards for guests. And believe me, the local PD is going to know if you have an Airbnb that's operating above noise levels in a hard party zone, if you're consistently getting complaints from neighbors, fire safety, health standards, building codes and regulations, anything they can throw at you that's going to inhibit this being an accommodation for you, they're going to do it. It's not frowned upon. That's not necessarily the term that I'm looking for, but as it has an effect, the coming and going of tenants rapidly, maybe even every week, you've got somebody new in there, has an effect, has a ripple effect in the local community. And all you need is old man Jake living next door, calling the cops every time you got a new tenant, and that's going to start getting you some low stars on the Airbnb platform. And then pretty soon tenants won't rent from you simply because old man Jake, by the way, regular real estate owners, old man Jake is not your friend. Old man Jake will make it difficult for you to be able to sell your property when it's time to sell it too. He's going to be in your business. He's going to be trying to talk to people before they are making an offer on your home, and they're going to try to inhibit the sale and you making a good profit, especially if you and old man Jake were not compadres. Talk about revenue collection for a minute. Tourism taxes, hotel occupancy taxes are very similar in the Airbnb market. So there's a significant revenue source for lots of local governments, and they're going to take advantage of that. Applying these taxes to an Airbnb rental will ensure that the city that you're in benefits financially from the additional tourism that's facilitated by the Airbnb platform. And I keep calling it a platform because I realize there's others out there, and I'm using Airbnb as an example. There is Vrbo. There are some short-term rentals that you can do straight off of Google. You can try to manage this yourself. But I'm here to tell you, I have personal experience with Keystone and have personal experience throughout the state of Florida on managing Airbnbs, setting up Airbnbs, purchasing Airbnb properties with buyers, and keeping it as an Airbnb for an amount of time, setting it up inside of that platform and that system. And believe me, Airbnb's got it figured out. Yes. Do they get their cut? Sure. Make sure that you're smart with your finances. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and then you'll understand how you can manage it appropriately. And then, of course, let's not go too far without talking about zoning laws. Residential zones are typically intended for long-term housing. Remember that. Some cities are going to enforce very strict zoning laws, and they're going to limit this as a short-term rental. The fact that they're renting for less than 7 months means that it's a short-term, and you got to follow those guidelines. Pro tip, though, understanding how to properly start up an Airbnb business is going to encourage you guys to do the due diligence that's necessary, and you can do this by simply researching the zoning laws, the licensing requirements, specific restrictions on short-term rentals in your area that you want to have, and additionally, if the property falls under a jurisdiction of an HOA, for example, please make sure that you review and adhere to those and its bylaws. Don't make this complicated for yourself. If you're going to go and purchase a property, make sure that it is easy for you to operate as an Airbnb owner in that area. I realize it's not a forever plan. You're not going to be the Airbnb in that community forever. But for now, you want to make sure that that has the most flexibility for you. Some of those HOAs are going to have some restrictions and outright bans on short-term rentals. So you better know that before you buy it. Ensuring that you've got compliance with those various legalities is certainly going to avoid penalties, which will eat up into your profits. It's going to allow you to invest your money in a legally sound, sustainable venture that's more likely to yield long-term benefits and maintain good standing in the community. Last thing you want to be is that guy at the HOA meetings that everybody wants to talk about, and you may not even know it's a problem. Financing. Planning the finances for your Airbnb business. This goes beyond the initial property purchase. It requires very thoughtful financial management.